Hi there, Rika Mason here. I just wanted to go through a few other areas in terms of the learning plans. If you go to your maths meta site and you go back to the very first class that we had, which was on Tuesday the 21st of July, you'll see that I've added some extra resources there and sort of changed a few things around. So I've now put the Australian Curriculum Mathematics and Approaches to Maths, Chapter 1 and Chapter 11, down towards the bottom, but they were there and they're still there from the original meta site. But what I've done is that I've just highlighted different examples of learning plans. Just to sort of help you get the idea. Some of these things you can just go through yourself. I'm not going to go through every one of them. But these three areas here you've already seen. So this is the video explanation. I know it goes on and on and on, as this one probably will. But that is still helpful for you. I showed that at the very first class. And it will be helpful for you to fill in your lesson plans. And this is then the one of the learning plan format with explanatory notes. So we've actually gone through all of those. What I'm going to do today is just to take you briefly through some of the examples. These are student examples that came up from last semester, and as you can see, they're from English. So they're a little bit different, but not a big deal of difference between a well-written maths plan and a well-written English plan. I think you'll get the idea. I think what I'm really looking to try to show you is the link between the learning the Australian curriculum in your different groups, your learning outcomes, and then the procedures that you do, and then the evaluation that you have. Those are the four things that have to tie together. In your maths plan, I'm saying to you, I've given you a class profile. And in that class profile, most of the children are in grade 4. It's a grade 4 profile. But there are some children working in grade 2 and there are some children working in grade 5. Now, when it comes to the Australian curriculum, I actually need you to find a short descriptor from grade 5 curriculum. Not an upgraded grade 4, because your profile says you actually have children working at grade 5 level. So if you're going to do fractions or addition or counting or space or geometry, whatever you're going to do, you're going to have to find something in the grade 5 curriculum that links through to the grade 4 curriculum, that links through to the grade 2 curriculum. And in fact, in your maths plans, you're going to run almost three separate classes for those children. You also have two children who have particular special needs. So one has hearing impaired need, and the other one is as English as an additional language or dialect, or what we sometimes call English as a second language. These children have a particular, and you can decide where they are in terms of their maths. They could be working at a grade 5 level, both of them. They could be working at grade 4 level, one could be working at grade 5, one could be working at a grade 2 level. So you somewhere or other you plug in where their maths is, but then I need you to describe what are the things you're going to do to help the child with whose English is a second language actually do something to overcome or to help her access or him access the maths curriculum. You're going to re-explain it? Are you going to provide explanations in the child's original language? That's pretty hard to do, but you might do that. Are you going to buddy the child up? That kind of thing. Are you going to, with the child who is hearing impaired, are there microphones that need to be used? Does the child need to sit near you? Does the child need to have something in terms of a podcast? You make some decisions, but the modifications for children with special needs has to do with how do they access the mathematics despite or in the context of their special needs. And so there's a thread that goes through all of your work, all of your procedure, and then culminates in an evaluation. The evaluation can be quite simple. It doesn't have to be a big, elaborate evaluation, and then finish. So I've got a couple of plans here that were actually produced by students, so they're different to the ones that I might have done, and they're fine. Don't know if I'm going to go through all of them, or especially all these other areas. But I'm going to have a quick look at these whole learning plans. But here you've got some truncated, just some cut and paste out of some good learning outcomes and procedures. Some are just simply good learning outcomes. This one has a modification and procedures, how you follow those special needs children, something about procedure and something about review and transition. I don't want to labour the point. Now, in this case, what I've done with these students is I gave them feedback via writing. So I created another column here where I spoke with those students, gave feedback, I guess. But in your case, I'll be giving it via podcast, so you won't have this one here. So here, the child has grade 6, 25 students. I didn't. The student gave me their own classroom, so there isn't this year 8 to year 4 thing. I didn't do that with this group. The pictures and words together, their Auswell's description comes straight out of an Auswell's. I probably wouldn't want to have the code there. Observing how sequential events can be represented visually by a series of images, and so on. And they need to know something about text images and how to help the text. But this is where I really want to talk to you about. In the student learning outcome, this pre-service teacher created 3 groups, which is what I tend to ask for, an advanced group. And as you can see, the topic is the same, but the advanced group has something a little bit more in it, and the supported group has a little bit more help. So the advanced group, the learning outcome, is to be able to identify differences in text images, pictures, graphs, timelines and flowcharts, and how these affect the text, and be able to create a story using images. Now I can see that. I can test a child on that. Come and talk to me about these different text images, and now you go and create a story or a storyboard, and I can look at that. So it's a demonstratable learning outcome. The middle group is being able to identify difference in text images and how to make these texts easier, how these make the text easy to understand, be able to create a story using pictures. Okay, so this is how they affect the text, so you're thinking a little bit more broadly or deeply about that. This makes the text more exciting, this makes the text more difficult, this makes the text more obscure, and this one talks about, because we've done this, I can understand the text more easily, and the supported group being able to identify the use of images and text and be able to create a storyline, so not being able to simply do the activity. Here we have Sally, who has English as a second language, and we're told that Sally is in the supported group. Okay, and Jake, who's dyslexic, is in the middle group. He grasps the ideas well, but he has difficulty in spelling. So here I've identified those children, but also identified what part of the English they're in. In the modification, we have here that Sally is in the supported group, and just notice the colours. Okay, the colours make things very straightforward. The teacher will make sure that Sally reads out loud her story to the teacher to make sure the words are correct. That's a reasonable thing to do with ESL children. And the dyslexic child in the middle, the teacher will make sure that Jake has reread his work to himself, and will make sure he has Common Words sheet available to check his spelling. So that's just a support for Jake to do the middle group work. We have something about integration of ICT and student materials. Now what I want to draw to your attention is this is what the teacher can do, and here in this particular experience the students are all doing a similar activity, but here's the beginning, but here we see, especially down here, what we're looking for is the children are doing, in the advanced group, are doing their work. The middle group is doing their work, including Jake, and the supported group, including Sally, are doing their work. So they're all creating these books, but you as the teacher are looking for different things from those children and are channeling them, pushing them, shepherding them into those different ideas because of the learning outcomes you've set. Okay, so the learning outcomes for each of those groups leads to activity, which in this case is an all-in sort of class, but your evaluation is based on your learning outcomes, okay, at the beginning. And then there's a review. The children sit on the ground, they talk a little bit about what they've done, and here is the transition to see if the room is clean and tidy, and then allow the students to go out for lunch. Really important stuff. Okay, let's have a look at the next one. So here, that first one was an example of where children are doing their own thing, but the differentiation of groups are clearly held together with expectations. Okay, that's probably more suitable for English than it would be for mathematics. Here is a good thread throughout the plan of the various group activity learning, of the various group learning outcomes and activities. I might just do this one and let you find the rest yourself. Here we have a grade 3 of 24 children. We're going to talk about James and the Giant Peach. And here you have, this is probably a better one, here you have 3 different parts of the Australian curriculum coming out. Identify the audience and purpose of imaginative, informative, persuasive texts. That has to do with the annoying oranges. Not sure if I would call a group annoying oranges, but this is what this person has done. Draw connections between personal experience and the worlds of texts. So from this one, that's the Oswell's description, and the annoying oranges have been introduced into the concept of persuasive text and have completed a similar exercise with a comparable text. They are able to read unsupervised with access to teacher help if necessary. Okay, from this one, the red, draw connections between personal experiences and the worlds of texts and share responses with others. Here, the midget apples. A person who's a midget apple is able to read at their age-appropriate skill level and is able to work in a group unsupervised. He is able to understand a text they have read up to a level, however, requires a teacher to explain difficult sentences. And the wasabis, here they're going to recognise high-frequency sight words. The wasabis requires a guided reading experience, however, must be able to complete reading and understand a sentence with a high use of frequency. All right. That's their essential prior learning. I think I talked about learning outcomes then. Here are the learning outcomes. Okay, so these are working at level 1, 2 and 3. So this is the high group, the middle group and the lower group level. So the annoying oranges, they were a tad wordy, I said. This group reads above their reading level and are able to read with very little help from the teacher. The expected outcome, all I really need is the expected outcome from this group is to read the 2 chapters with fluency, understand the text, use comprehension skills to use their understanding of the situation in the book and relate their point of view in a persuasive type text. You probably only need read this bit here as your student learning outcome. For the midget apples, this just gives a bit of context. The end of the 2 chapters, this group draws a connection to the characters using their comprehensive skills, and the lesson specifically targets comprehension and expression. The same through art. And here we go. Familiarise students with high frequency sight words and spell at least 10 of these words on their own. And here we've got 2 children or 3 children in this group that need some help. So Vicky is in the annoying oranges and she has auditory processing needs. And here I asked, what are you intending to do with that? She's just identified, Vicky, I need to know what she does. Whereas with the Asperger student, Marcus does not like to be restricted to being seated at his desk. He likes to move around and works well on his own rather than in a group. He's a brilliant artist. And again, a description, but not necessarily one assumes that you're going to allow that child to walk around, and the ESL child. So these aren't great, these three, but at least they've identified them and also identified them in their groups with reading. Okay. So here you've got the children's process, or the student's process, which I felt was quite good. Okay, so you can read that yourself. And here you see the orange group has a task to write a persuasive text, and then they set aside. Marcus is specifically targeted on this group. Children begin, and you can see that by using the colours again, you can follow from where the learning outcomes come from to the to the children with additional needs, right through to what they're going to do, what the children are going to do, and perhaps how the teacher will probably in an informal way evaluate them. Then there's a review and transition. Okay, I'm not going to go through the rest, but I would be suggesting to just have a quick look at these ones. Learning outcomes. By the end of this series, the low group will be able to read an informative text and pick out important parts. The middle group be able to read an informative text and discuss amongst the group what the main points are and create a poster. And the advanced group be able to read an informative text and discuss amongst the group what the main points are and create a poster that demonstrate their learning, which will include some additional research. Okay, quite good, very clear, and then you set up your learning plans accordingly. And I'll just go through this one. Different class, the advanced group. This group will be able to create an organised document which embodies title and date. These students will also be able to categorise lists of alphabetical order to the third letter. A middle group, the group will be able to create an organised document which embodies title and date, and these ones will be able to list an alphabetical order to the second letter, and these ones will be able to list by alphabetical order for the first letter. And again, perhaps the children will be doing this in mixed groups, sitting wherever they like, but you as teacher will be following this child and that child's progress according to your learning outcomes. I do hope that's helpful. Okay, good luck with these learning plans.